Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the class 1 of Basics of Communication Theory. First of all, we have to know the basics of communications theory. Without that, our course, communication, it's a very basic course. It will not complete it. And there's a very basic course that we have to learn the need for communication and what is really the communication is. So, I am an instructor, Amit Haldar, and our course title is Communication and course code is Tripoli 801. Let's start. First of all, what's the definition of communication? Communication word really start from a Latin word communicare, that means sharing. So here we can see that the communication can be defined as the process of exchange and sharing of information through means such as words, actions, signs, etc. Between two or more individuals. That means when we exchange our information through any other means, it's like words, actions, it can be voice communication, that can be video communication, audio communication, and there's some signs, some text messages. They all are go into the sector of communication. And what's communication engineering? Communication engineering concerned with the sending and receiving of signals. That means it depends on signals, and signals are particularly depend on the information. Here are the two very important words that you have to understand. This first of all, the information part, and just means the sharing of the information. That's the important part. Then what we will share? We will share the message. We will share the message. Okay, that's the important thing. And this message should have the information. Should have to have the information that we want to send. And the engineering which helps us to send and receive these kind of signals, especially by means of electrical or electroacoustic devices and electromagnetic waves, that is known as communication engineering. So communication engineering, they are concerned with sending and receiving signals, especially by means of electrical or electroacoustic devices and also electromagnetic waves. Now we'll heading towards the why we need for communication. There are it's very much important to share your message to your any other individuals, and that is a very important part in social life and other sectors too, because only human in the art can communicate with each other with different type of signs and signals, and they have developed their writing skills, they have developed their language skills to communicate with each other, and also they have developed some other means of communication that has been dependent on the channel that they want to transmit their signals to their destination. So here we can see that for any living being, while coexisting, there occurs as a necessity of exchange of some information. Whenever a need for exchange of information arises, some means of communication should exist. While the means of communication can be anything such as gestures, that means you can shake your hands, you can just move your hand any other sides, you can just use your two fingers or four fingers or three fingers to make a certain language or code word to understand the receiver part or the another individual. The symbols or the language, the need for communication is inevitable. So it is a very important thing. Without that, we are not been able to communicate with each other. And nowadays, the world has been a hub of communication because of the advent of internet. We have just we are living in a global village, and that has been a very much evident and important thing to uh, communicate with each other in the advent of internet and the advancement of the science and technology. And language and gestures play an important role in human communication, while sounds and actions are important for animal communication. So that is very much important in language processing and gestures processing and all other things. And however, when some message has to be conveyed, a communication has to be established. Now, going towards the next phase of communication, basic of communication, we have to know the block diagrams and parts of the communication systems, and we have to know elaborately the parts of the communication system. So, there is a basic communication system that has been drawn here, And how can we understand that that can work? First of all, there is an information source, and that is a very important and basic thing of communication. That can be a text message, that can be audio, that can be videos. The information source that can be used as a transducer. We could just convert the information source, that is the non-electrical source, to the electrical source. So we have to use a transducer here to convert it to the electrical signal. Then the source encoder came forward, and for this source encoder we have to encode this source for the help of encoder, and that can be processed by means of your computing or computers or any other computing techniques. So then we have to use the channel encoder, and channel encoder really uses the source encoder. That means you have to convert the signal, the information source, that is some signals, that non-electrical signals, to the electrical signals. Then the channel encoder get it through that how much and what kind of capacity of the channel was, and how can we transmit it through it. And then we go to the very important part, that means modulate. That means the signal should have to be transferred to a transferable way that should be very much effective to penetrate the channel through it. So transmitter has these four kind of sections of parts, that you can say. That is the information source, that is the source encoder, that is the channel encoder, and the modulate part. After that, the transmitter section part transmitter has been finished. Then the process will go through to the channel part, that is the channel part, the mid part. That is very much important part to transmit your messages through it. And without channel we are not able to transmit any kind of messages through it. So it's a very much important part, and there is a concern of the channel, that how much capacity a channel has, and how much noise a channel has, and how can we just overcome it and pass our signals to. Then the opposite of modulation, demodulate or detection will come. That means a receiver antenna, or you can say if it's a wired communication, so the receiver end will have a demodulator that should have to be demodulate and detect the signals. That means there are some unwanted signals, there are some other signals too mixed with that, but they have to retrieve their original signal, that they have to get through to it the information that has been molded and enveloped through it. So then they go to the part of the channel decoder. Then the channel decoder decodes itself and makes the channel decoder to the information part. That means that the electrical signal, they have processed the electrical signal. Then they will get through to the source decoder. Then the source decoder will convert the electrical signal. That means that is another transducer that will transfer the electrical signal to non-electrical signal to the information sink. That means the output section, the section that deals with some of the speakers, some of the displays, and all other things. So that's the very much important parts of the communication. Now going through to the basic part, that is the signal. We have to know that what kind of thing we should just really passing through to it. So an electrical impulse or an electromagnetic wave which travels a distance to convey a message can be termed as a signal in communication system. Depending on the characteristics, signals may be classified into two types. That means analog and digital. And analog and digital has been have a further classification that has been shown in the following figure. That means periodic or aperiodic. That means the analog signal has been divided, and digital signal also divided into these two types. So thank you very much for the first part of the lecture. We will heading toward the next part to know the noise, the modulation, and the channel characteristics. Thank you very much for being with me.